Hey guys, Sydney here. In today's video, I'm going to show you a day in the life of a detailer that works in a home garage. So today we're going to be working on this black Tahoe. It is a customer that has been in before, so it's not quite as dirty as some that I might see. So first thing I'm going to do is do a walk around of the whole vehicle. So first thing I noticed right when he pulled in was the front bugs. So he did take the car through a car wash, but I noticed that there's a lot of dried on bugs that obviously don't come off in the car wash. So that's going to need some special attention. So definitely extra scrubbing there. And then I'm going to walk around the vehicle, kind of assess the paint, not doing any kind of paint correction. We're going to do a wash clay seal. It is really dusty, so we're gonna have to kind of do a pre-spray, make sure we get that dust off there safely. And then as I come around to, I'm gonna start with the driver area, check that out. One thing I notice is obviously the floor mats are pretty dirty. There's all WeatherTech mats in here. Lots of like dust and crumbs and all the cracks and crevices. Leather and everything's in pretty good shape, just needs kind of a refresh detail. In the back, really the whole inside's kind of the same, just general, maintenance detail as far as that goes, and then just a lot of conditioning. So these Chevys tend to dry out, they tend to fade, absorb body oils and things like that. So since it is black on black, mainly going to focus on like conditioning the leather and the plastics on there. Another thing that I really noticed on the outside, the wheels are super clean, but they look like they're not. And that happens a lot on these matte black aftermarket wheels. They can tend to dry out and look kind of, they look dirty, but they're not. So at the end of the detail, we're gonna treat these tires and the wheels with good conditioning to make them kind of pop back black and look, nice and new again. But other than that, it's really just going to be kind of cleaning everything up, tightening it up, maybe some glass polishing if I find any water spots that remain after the wash. But really overall, this truck is in really good shape. The hood, I might give it a little bit of attention, even though we're not doing paint correction. The paint is pretty scratched and things like that, but sometimes I like to take one area and kind of clean it up for the customer if we can real fast. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward, but still have to go through all the motions today. So normally when I start, I always start on the inside. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull these mats out so that we can kind of see what's going on the carpet underneath. So I will move the seats all the way back, because when we blow and vacuum, I'm gonna move them all the way back and then all the way forward to make sure I get all of the areas underneath those seats. So we're gonna pop out these floor mats and I'm gonna take these out to my driveway. That guy out. All right. So now we've got that clear, and then my next step is going to be, if it's really bad, I will pre-vacuum before I blow, but this one's not too bad, so I'm going to go straight to blowing. Oh, I'm going to get all their stuff out. This is the other thing, is if there's customer stuff, I put it in a pile and put that in a Ziploc for later. So I do request that the customer remove most of their garbage and their personal belongings ahead of time, because it saves time. It also avoids where I could put it somewhere and forget to put it back in their car. So I always ask that they take all of their personal belongings. Sometimes they forget a couple of them and I just set those aside and try to stick those in a Ziploc for later. All right, so let's grab our air blaster. And so what this is gonna do is it's just gonna blow out all those cracks that you may miss with the vacuum. What I've noticed is there's lots of areas that you don't see, especially like underneath the seats, in between the seats. So this is just gonna pre-blow everything. So it's actually gonna make the vacuuming much easier. All right, and then I'm just gonna jump into vacuuming. I am going to go grab my paint gloss though, because my paint gloss is my favorite vacuum aid. So I'm gonna pull this guy out. Okay, and I need my brush attachment and my crevice tool for this one. Really though, not too bad. All right, so I am going to start right back up in the passenger section. I usually work my way back. So if you remember when we were moving the mats, I already have the passenger seat moved all the way back. So I'm gonna start up there. And I use my dust brush everywhere where I can, and then use the crevice tool wherever I need to kind of get in the nooks and crannies. And at this first part, I don't spend like a lot of time focused on making the vacuum perfect, because at the end of the detail, I'm going to come back and really fine tune the vacuuming. So I don't spend, you know, I get like 95% of it, but I don't worry about it being perfect at this point, because when we get onto the steaming, more stuff's going to come out that we didn't know was there. So I use paint gloss as my vacuum aid. And so what this does is, paint gloss is an anti-static. So it cuts the static barrier and it just cuts down your vacuuming time. What happens is you don't have the dust and dirt like popping up and down from the static. And so it just helps you vacuum that much faster. It also kind of helps turn the carpets black. It makes them look nice and neat. But then it also leaves that anti-static property on there. So it actually helps it not get dirty quite as fast again. So it just cuts down on the vacuuming time a lot, which is really nice. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to my crevice tool, just get along all the edges. Like I say, I'm just looking to get about 90%, 90 to 95% of the stuff during this vacuum, and then I'll really fine tune it at the end. And then I will move the seat all the way forward at this point so that we can get in the back. And then because I already have this seat folded up, I'm going to go ahead and do the third row rather than putting the seat down again. I'm going to spray my paint gloss. And then efficiency, since I already have the crevice tool on, now I'm going to do my edges first in this section. So I don't spend the time, you know, I kind of go in order. Wherever the seats are, I do that. And if this is what I have on my tool, then I do my edges first, so that I'm not taking all those extra seconds to change back and forth. All right, so we get that, and then we'll switch to our dust brush, and I'm gonna fold this down. Now I'm gonna do the back of this seat before I sit it up. All the little hairs off of that. All right, grab my tools. That guy up. Now on these seats, there was a lot of crumbs and dirt kind of in the cracks. So definitely during the vacuuming, I'm going to want to make sure that I get all of that out of the way so that it's gone when I go to do the steam cleaning. And then again, I'm going to start in the driver's section on this area since the seat's already moved back. So you can see the vacuum aid, especially back here, you can see where it just attaches to all those particles and literally just makes them vacuum up the first time. So you're not going over the same area multiple times, and just really speeds up the vacuuming process. So now we are done vacuuming that. So especially in the back, like I said, I'm going to focus more on that at the end. I'm going to be climbing around back there, which means I'm probably going to be bringing in some sand and dirt. So I'm not going to worry too much about making it perfect. I'm really going to hit, you know, making carpet lines and really making it look nice back there at the end. So got it all vacuumed. So now we're ready to scrub the interior and get these plastics protected. All right, so now that we're ready to do the cleaning, I chose my products. I'm going to use the cockpit out of the off-road line, and I'm going to use the Detail Factory curve ball. But because it's kind of a mess and we've got a lot of surface area to cover, there's construction going on, I'm going to go ahead and at this point I'm going to call in a phone a friend. So I have here with me today my friend Tony Mazel. He is the PNS director of training, but he's here to help me this week. So Tony, we are going to, not super dirty, because you know I don't like to do dirty cars, right?
Me neither.
So I know, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to do cockpit and curve ball, and we're just going to give everything a quick scrub.
Okay.
We'll go from front to back, and then we will steam the whole thing at the end. So I'm going to give you the little bottle, and you get the red curve ball because the teal's mine.
Thanks.
All right, let's get to scrubbing. Okay, so I'm just going to preload my curve ball here with some cleaner. And then because, like I said, this car's not super dirty, I'm just gonna go through and like quickly scrub around with the cockpit, kind of getting all those tie touch areas, getting in the cracks. I like this brush because it covers a large surface area and it does give you a little bit of lather. So I tend to choose this tool for this type of job. If I had something dirtier, I might choose like a scrub mitt or something that's kind of gonna get more into the grooves, but this curveball works really good. You can cover a lot of real estate really fast. For the cup holders, I'm gonna spray directly into those. Those are generally where you're gonna find your coffee, smoothies. All right. Same for the center console, tends to be a little bit dirtier. The nice thing about cockpit is it's like express, like it's gonna be okay if it dries on the surface. When we come back with our steamer, the steamer is gonna remove any residue that was left behind. So we don't have to worry about wiping it at this point. So as you can see, this makes it really fast. I can usually get each section done in, usually 5, max 10 minutes of pre-scrubbing. So it just makes this part of, getting everything clean go by much faster, which is nice. I'm all about the efficiency. I think more so when you work in a home garage, time is money and like every second is precious. And you want to make as much as you can in as short a period of time, because that is what gets the car in and out of your shop and makes it efficient. All right, you don't want to forget the sides. That's why I like to move the seat all the way back forward. You don't want to forget the sides of the center console, because when they do spill stuff, that's right where it goes. Okay. Then we're gonna go to the back seat here. Luckily, this particular customer does not have any children, so there's not any grime and soda pop and fries back here. I think that another cool benefit of being an at-home detailer, this is a good example, is you tend to be able to build a better relationship with your customers. So you tend to get repeat customers that want to maintain their vehicle. So this is a great example. So this guy comes once a year, every year. And even though I'm still charging him for a full detail, it makes my job easier. So that's how I get vehicles like this, because I really maintain my relationships with my customers so that they come back often and their cars stay much cleaner, and we're just kind of tightening everything up. So definitely makes my job easier in the long run. Make sure we get these. These are always covered in dust and sometimes dirt. I don't ever like to miss this part. Also, back edge of the seat. So where this leather touches the seat back, we want to make sure that while they're folded, we get that part clean, because there is always food and crackers and stuff stuck in there. So this is a good opportunity to hit those areas. All right, so now that we have the entire inside scrubbed, I'm gonna start I'm gonna call it steam rinsing it. So obviously on a dirtier vehicle, you're gonna wanna spend more time with the steamer, breaking up, gum, gunk, soda spills, things like that. But in this case, all I need to do is kind of steam over where we scrubbed with the cockpit, just to kind of rinse it and get it all cleaned out. This will also blow out any of those cracks that either the blower or the vacuum missed. So in my shop, I use a Mazel steamer. There's definitely stronger steamers out there. The reason why I've chosen this steamer for my shop is it's super safe. So it's not quite as hard of a jet, where I'm not going to damage any seats. I'm not going to damage, it's not going to get into the electronics and short them out or anything. So for the types of vehicles that I do and the processes that I do, I find this steamer is perfect for me. I like that it's little, and again, that it doesn't have a super forceful spray. I'm really wanting to use it more as a rinsing agent. So I'm going to start again, just top to bottom, kind of in the exact same pattern that I scrubbed. So I'm going to get in all the cracks and crevices, really focusing the steam in the cup holders and any of those little compartments, down in the mat pockets, things like that. But everything else is just going to get a quick rinse. So I always spray it outside the car first, so that you're not putting a bunch of water in. And then as far as what I'm running in my steamer, so this is the other thing that I think makes this steamer run awesome, is I put a half a cap of Absolute in my steamer water. So still the same 256:1 dilution, but I just usually only run about a gallon in there at a time. So the Absolute in the steamer helps obviously break up the dirt and particles, but it also keeps the steamer running at max efficiency because the hard water minerals here in Idaho don't get a chance to kind of build up in the steamer, you know, blocking some of its jets, which is going to decrease efficiency. So I run the Absolute in there. One, it smells good when you're running it, but then I also, if I go back and use it on door jambs, then you have the cleaning power of Absolute when you're hitting those areas. So love to run Absolute in my steamer. So let's go. Spray that off again. And I just use a dry towel. So I kind of just spray some steam and then wipe it up with a dry towel. And I'll usually go over, kind of focus in these areas, in the vents and things like that. And then I'm just gonna dry it up. And you can see what's nice is it's not like there's a bunch of soap reappearing. And that's kind of the beauty of both Cockpit and Express is they just naturally don't leave behind a lot of surfactants. So we're not leaving, even though we scrubbed it, we're not leaving a ton of soap on the surface. And you can see that when you go back and steam, you're not really getting any suds. So this is just kind of an extra insurance to make sure that we didn't leave any of the surfactants behind. All right, I'm just gonna steam the towel actually for this so that I can wipe down the seat and get any of that remaining residue from the cockpit off so that I can sit on it to clean the center console. I'm just gonna wipe the seat down real quick. All right, so for the electronics here, I like to again steam into my towel, not directly onto the electronics, but I do see a part up here that this is like where the dash pieces meet. I can see that there's some dust down in there. So since I'm up here, I'm just gonna go ahead and take my steamer and blow those chunks right out of there that were missed. Okay, we're just gonna give these a good wipe, make sure we got all the dust off of these. Again, focusing on those sides that go in between the seats. And then that back ledge. All right, and then I'm gonna climb in the back here since this is lifted up. So then generally speaking for the third row, obviously I have to get inside the vehicle to do that. So I generally do that all in one shot if I can versus getting in and out on both sides. So we're gonna do the entire seat back here. Just give it a nice wipe down. The plastics I'll directly steam again, just in case there's particles stuck in those cracks. Make sure that this helps blow them out. And I know there's a lot of controversy about steaming leather, and while I do agree you shouldn't steam directly on leather, another reason why I chose this steamer is it doesn't get quite as hot and, like I say, as forceful as other steamers. And so for this, if you really think about it at this point, I'm just using like a warm, moist towel to get kind of the soap and everything off, but it's not, the steam of this is not gonna hurt any of this material or leather or anything like that. So, you know, but definitely don't steam directly onto the leather or anything like that. With these cup holders, luckily they are nothing growing in the corners. And again, we're gonna, oops. Buckle. Always want to make sure to get the fins of these vents really well. They really hold on to the dust and dirt. All right, now that I have the inside totally cleaned, decontaminated, and vacuumed, I'm gonna actually move to the outside. So before I finish the inside with protectant and glass, I would like to do the outside first. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Tony's gonna keep steaming on that side, so we're gonna get this side washed. So first things first, we have the wheels and tires cleaned, but what I'm gonna do is, if you notice on these badges, they always get all that gunk and old soap and things from the car wash. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean his badges out before we start the wash. So I'm gonna go grab that stuff. All right, so this is a super quick and easy process. It makes a huge difference at the end of the day. So the things I'm gonna use is a water spot remover, I'm going to use the small crevice tool from Detail Factory and then Brake Buster. The Brake Buster is just going to deactivate the water spot remover. So super quick and easy. I'm going to preload my brush with the gel, and I don't spray it directly on the panel because I don't want it to drip down. And then I'm just going to scrub around those letters with the water spot remover, which is an acid, right? And this is going to, and then I'm going to let it work for a couple seconds. Then I'm going to come back and scrub again. And this just instantly eats away at all of that grease and grime that gets stuck in there. And I always feel like when these badges are dirty, it just really ages the car. So I'm gonna let that sit for just a second, kind of work it in with those bristles. And this brush is gentle enough that it doesn't scratch the paint or anything around it, except this car's already severely scratched. Really get inside there. And this only takes a couple seconds to really work. So we're gonna do that, and then I'm gonna hit it with Brake Buster to deactivate the acid. And the nice part about using Brake Buster is it can sit on the surface, so we're not gonna have to worry about washing this right away. We just need to make sure that that acid is deactivated. And then we will see when we're done, we're gonna come back and all those letters are gonna be perfectly clean. So now we'll go to the wash process. All right, so now we're ready to jump into the rinseless wash, which we're doing wash clay seal. So items I need for this part, I need a drying towel, so I have the liquidator. I've got a bucket pre-filled with about 3 gallons of water, which means I have 3 capfuls of Absolute in my bucket. I have my bottle of bead maker. I've got my UBS sponge to wash with, and I have my Reset clay towel. And then for my pre-spray today, I'm going to use this detail keg, and this is just gonna make quick work of my pre-spray. So this is just Absolute diluted regular 250-6-to-1. So I'm just gonna pre-spray this whole side of the car, then I'm gonna wash clay seal this part, dry it, and then we'll just keep moving section to section. So now we're just gonna go straight into the wash. And again, this car isn't super dirty. It's just got a lot of dust on it. Now it has drywall dust on it. So we will get this whole side wet just because it's not super warm in here. It's not a very hot day in Boise today, and I have air conditioning in here. So that means, and that window's down. So we can get away with doing one whole side. Again, the beauty of a vehicle that comes in for maintenance details, all the contamination off the sides comes off super easy. Probably still even has a little bit of protection left from the last time we saw it.
Yeah, talk about what was on this car last time.
It would have been exactly this. So a year ago, it would have just been the same wash clay seal, so bead maker. You know, I've always said that I feel like bead maker lasts longer when you mix it with water and the clay. I think something magic happens when you're removing contamination, which allows the bead maker to directly bond with the paint uncontaminated. So I just find that bead maker lasts a lot longer when doing it that way. So while this isn't like crazy, it has been a year. It's a black vehicle. He goes through the car wash at least 1, maybe 2 times a week. So for it to still not have a lot of contamination buildup and to still be pretty slick to the touch is pretty cool. So now that we've got this whole side done, let me get this mirror real quick. Now that we've got this side done, we can go right into the clay and seal, which this is so easy. This is my favorite process, I think. So most vehicles that come into my shop get this service. So whether it is a full detail like this or coating maintenance, either way I do this process because it's decontaminating the surface and then leaving behind protection. So even doing this to a coated car kind of unclogs the coating, gets all the contamination off. I like to describe it as like when you go to the dentist. So you can wash your car just like we brush our teeth every day, but not all that contamination comes off. And eventually you have to go see your hygienist to do the deep scrub of your teeth. And so this is kind of like that. And then once we do this process, then the car, you know, from now going forward, his car will actually get clean when he goes through the car wash, which just keeps it looking better all year long. So a little more contamination down here. So I'm gonna use a little bit more bead maker. So this process, I love the clay towel because you might not be able to hear it on the mic, but when you hit contamination, you definitely feel it in your hands. You feel the grittiness. And so if it's super slick, you know you don't need to go over it a whole bunch. You're just you know, kind of working the bead maker in at that point. But these lower portions, we can definitely hear it. And so I love it because you know just by the touch in your hand when you're ready to move on to the next section. So like as we get lower, I don't know if you guys can hear that, start to hear the grinding, and then it just gets quiet again. Flip my towel, do this last section, and then we'll dry this side and we'll move on to the hood. Okay, so now we've got that whole side wash clay sealed. Tony, you want to dry it for me? Or you want me to dry it? I'll let you dry it.
Okay.
Go for it. So I'm actually going to head over to the other side of the garage because we'll move around the vehicle. And up front, like we mentioned when we first pulled it in, there's a lot of leftover bugs that the car wash doesn't get off. So I'm going to go get my bug off from over on the other side while Tony dries this side. And then that way we can get that kind of working in and getting those bugs softening up. There's a lot of bugs up here and hopefully these will come off without too much issue. So this is bug off. It is diluted 1-to-1 and I'm just going to spray it actually directly right on the surface. The only areas on a car that you don't want to spray bug off directly on would be glass. But otherwise, as long as you don't have super aged plastics, so if you have a vehicle with really dry aged plastics, I would kind of be hesitant to spray the bug off directly on them. But if the plastics are in good shape, you're totally good to go. So I'm going to soak this whole front with bug off. And then I'm going to let it soak for about at least a minute or two before I start scrubbing it. All right. Let that do its thing. And then I'm going to go to my wash bucket here. I'm going to grab my orange bug scrubber. And then we're just going to wait a minute. They're good to go. I love this bug scrubber and bug off together. I remember back when I first started detailing and I would try to get bugs off the hard way or I'd try to pressure wash them off or what have you. And it was, oh my gosh, I used to spend like an hour trying to get bugs off the front of vehicles. And again, previous protection makes our lives a lot easier as well. Because at some point, obviously this has had, you know, it probably honestly had Defender because I like to do the wash clay seal with Defender over it. And so that obviously makes, when these cars come back for maintenance, it makes these scrub off much easier, which this is crazy to me that the car wash couldn't get these off. But that's why we need to do this process to get them all dislodged. And then we'll put down a whole nother new coat of protection up here using Defender, which will then again make my job easier next year. So these are scrubbing off here really nice and easy. And then if this, like, let's say this car did have a ton of bugs, a ton of bug matter, I probably would come through and hit this with a pressure washer to rinse all this off just to get all the bodies off. But I think we're going to be fine. Just, and then where's that brush? I'm going to show you guys on these grills. I like to use the brush to get in there. And this gets all those bugs dislodged from these lovely honeycomb grills that somebody thought were a good idea. All right, then we're gonna come back just with our regular Absolute and sponge since there's not like a ton of those bug bodies left. We're just gonna come back and normal wash the front of this vehicle and kind of get it rinsed off, get that bug off, rinsed off from everywhere. But like I said, if you really felt like you needed to, you could absolutely come back with a pressure washer. But this is gonna do just fine for us today. And I will still run over this because, right, I want the protection there. I'm still gonna run over this with the clay and bead maker. All right. And I want a healthy coat of bead maker up here, because I think where we can see where that totally paid off for me last year. All right, and then we are going to attack the hood before we dry this because it's just all gonna drip down. Grab detail keg here again. Now I'm gonna spray that whole windshield. Luckily, it doesn't look like we have too many bugs on the windshield, so I don't need to do bug off on the windshield. We're gonna spray this and then see, it's still beading. What's cool with this is if I felt like I needed to rinse this, since I did use a lot of bug off, I can just go back through and rinse everything off with this. All right. That over there. And now let's see if I can reach this whole hood. Oh, be real close. Real close. Still got some water beading. And I do love that. Like, I can tell this hood is contaminated, but I can tell that the paint, you know, it's swirled and scratched from the car wash. It was when he bought this car. But what I love about it is I can definitely feel the slickness underneath all this dirt, which is awesome. All right. Okay, Mr. Ladderman.
Mr. Ladderman.
You do that. Okay. So then we will all grab the towel. I'll get this part over here dry.
Don't let anybody say your fingernail's not.
Say what?
Say your fingernail isn't a good detail.
Yeah, I use mine all the time. They're like my best detailing tool. All right, and look how nice that looks. Even though it's got like a ton of scratches, it just, that wash clay seal makes them look like they were just polished. It definitely brings out the shine of the paint. Easy peasy. There's a lot of bugs left on there. They came off nice and easy. All right. Not sure what everybody's favorite method of using the towels is, but this is mine. So much easier. All right, look at that. Okay, so then we will move on to the other side, but I'm gonna let Tony wash this side and we're gonna go address those dry wheels and tires. Okay, so like we talked about these wheels and tires, the wheels are in good shape, but they're super faded just from sun and being outside, going through the car wash. So they're in good shape, but they look dirty because what happens is when that finish kind of gets compromised by the acid in the car wash and things like that, they tend to look gray and etched. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use dynamic dressing, which I love this hack. So we are gonna spray dynamic on the entire wheel and tire. So, and then we're just gonna walk away. So it sounds kind of crazy, but stick with me till the end when we look at this. So I'm going to spray the entire fender well. Now this gentleman did pull out his fender well liners, so this isn't gonna quite hit the same, but we're still gonna treat those. Then I'm just gonna spray this tire down with dynamic. Dynamic comes as a concentrate, and so my favorite dilution for this is about 3:1, so I like it a little bit stronger than the RTU version, which is 4:1. So I'm actually, I know this sounds crazy, I'm gonna spray the entire wheel with this, and then we're gonna walk away and we're gonna leave this for like 30 minutes. When we come back, this is all going to be matte all by itself, and we're just gonna give the wheels a quick wipe. They're gonna be super conditioned, turned back to black, and it actually is gonna help stuff not stick to it for a while. So it's gonna give it a little coating of protection. So it will take some wiping, but it's super easy to wipe off, which is great. So I'm gonna do this other tire, and then Tony's finishing up washing the other side. Bump this out of the way. Same thing up here. We're just gonna spray, especially those plastic areas so that they look nice and hydrated. Make sure we're getting the edge of that. And then we're gonna mist across that wheel. Craziest thing you guys are gonna see today. All right, so then now that we've got that done, now I'm gonna move on to cleaning the glass, which is gonna kind of finish up the outside. We're gonna hit the door jambs, and then we're gonna jump back on the inside and finish that up. All right, so since I work at home, it is now 12:30. So this is when I take my lunch break. So while Tony keeps working, I'm gonna go inside and take a break. So the difference between shop detailers and home detailers is we still eat from it. So we're gonna put that in. There we go. All right, next up, we need to get these floor mats cleaned. So they are WeatherTech mats. They're gray, so they definitely are showing the dirt. So I'm going to spray them down with a degreaser. I'm going to use Tempest in this case. It's just a nice degreaser. It does a good job on WeatherTech mats. I'm going to spray it down, and then I'm going to use my drill brush and give them a little scrub and then rinse them with my pressure washer. And then after we're done with that, I'm going to put a protectant on them and let them bake in the sun. And I love, this is one thing I love about summer, is being able to let that protectant bake into them where they're not slippery, slimy, anything like that. And it will just finish them off nice. Obviously not as important with these gray ones, but definitely the black ones. All right, we're gonna get these totally soaked. These ones are, this was probably the only dirty thing in the car. These are really gnarly. You can see that degreaser already just cutting through all the grease and grime on these. Not sure how people feel about floor mats, but I think this is one of my most satisfying parts of detailing. All right, now we'll grab the pressure washer, get these rinsed off. That's probably as good as that one's gonna get. There comes a point where you just tell people to go buy new ones. You know, like how much effort you put into it. All right, so then I set these out in the actual sun so they can dry out. Wow, look at that dirt. All right, there we go. Okay, so next step is gonna be, so we've kind of gotten the outside cleaned and decontaminated. So now I'm gonna jump back on the inside, but I'm gonna start with the door jambs. So I'm gonna do door jambs, and then I'm gonna put protectant on, finish the windows. We're gonna be done inside, then we're gonna hop back and finish the outside. So for door jambs, I like to use Epic Waterless Wash. I'm just gonna spray it right on. If these door jambs were dirtier, I would use the steamer, but since they're not really that dirty, I'm not gonna worry about it. So I just like just a regular waterless wash to get these all wiped out. This customer, like everything else, he does a pretty good job kind of keeping this stuff up pretty well himself. So we're gonna get these done. I like Epic. A lot of people will ask why I don't use Absolute on the door jambs, and I like Epic because it does have a little bit of carnauba protection in it. So you get a little bit more protection with the carnauba left behind on the door jambs versus like Absolute, but Absolute is still, you know, totally a safe and reasonable option. Since I have Epic, I like to use Epic on the door jambs. Now these parts down here could get a little bit dirtier, so I might, you know, definitely switch my towel. All right, and don't forget the gas door. Now I do the door jambs before we've done our final wipe on the car, for this reason, so that if I do get any overspray or whatnot, that's all gonna get caught when I do my final inspection wipe. Okay, and I'm gonna show you one other trick that I like on these gas doors is I like to grab my aerosol dressing, which I use no rub, and you just give it a quick little hit on this. And again, don't worry about the overspray. You're gonna get that when you do your final wipe. And it just makes that nice and protected, and that's gonna mat down on its own. Totally clean gas door. And it's things like that that the customers notice. So I like to make sure to do that because those are the areas when they go to get gas the next time, they're really gonna notice that you went the extra mile. So I like to do that. And now I'm just gonna finish up these door jambs. One more area that I like to use the no rub on the exterior is right here. So we always have these little, you know, rubber joints and stuff in here. And so you can take this and it kind of cleans up all those areas that get really dry that you can't get towels into and whatnot. And it will look dirty, but it's not. So this is a great product to come in and just make those areas look all nice and brand new again. so now that we've done these door jambs, now I'm gonna go do the back door jamb and get that cleaned up. I always save this till last because it's usually always the dirtiest, and so it'll get the most amount of stuff in my towel. So you see right here, there's like lots of grease and dirt. So I always save the rear hatch for the last door jamb that I do, just because it's gonna load your towel up with sand and dirt and all sorts of nasty stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna use the steamer just so I can really get this rear hatch clean. Kind of get this. All right, so let's see, we've done the door jambs. So next up we are gonna do, I'm gonna use Swift on the interior. So let's talk about that. Where'd my Swift go? So I'm gonna use Swift, and I'm gonna use an applicator and a towel to go back and kind of smooth it in. So the reason I'm choosing Swift on this car is because there's so much plastic. There's so much plastic and leather that, you know, and it has been conditioned. So it's not that dry. And so what I don't want to happen is to have, you know, high spots and areas. So I'm gonna choose Swift, even though it's already clean. So we're not really relying on it for the cleaning part, but it's gonna give like a nice matte OEM finish. And when you have something that is all black, the entire inside, you can run the risk of like, you know, hitting areas that maybe, you know, were drier than others. And so you can have some variation. So I'm gonna use Swift so that it's just a nice matte OEM finish. I don't really want any shine at all. So I'm still gonna use the applicator method, the same as I do with my natural finish, which is what I normally use. And I'm still gonna apply it a little bit heavy so that it soaks in and kind of mattes out on its own. So I'm gonna apply it to all the surfaces, and then, so like I'll do this entire back area, and then I'll come back with a towel and smooth out anything that didn't kind of absorb on its own. But I'm gonna let it soak in as much as it can. Because here I really want the conditioning aspect. I just don't necessarily want any shine at all. So this is gonna be a good option. All right, then I'm gonna make sure to hit the tops of these seats while I'm back here. And then we'll go do the third row, and then I'll fold it down to make sure that we're getting all the sides and everything. But I'm gonna go treat the third row before I fold it down. Okay, all right, so we're gonna let that set. Oh, I'll do this door while I'm here. And I am gonna leave this for several minutes. So I'm not gonna wipe it right away because I think most of it is gonna just totally absorb on its own and be just fine. So I don't wanna wipe off any more than what the plastic wants to take in. So you can see it's already leaving like a really nice finish even without it being wiped. So that's why I love Swift. Okay, so now I'm gonna put the Swift on the seats back here and the plastics. And on these, it's gonna be nice. We're just gonna close them up with this Swift on it. It's gonna totally absorb in, so we're not gonna have to come back. Okay, now I'm gonna go back over this section to make sure we've got blended in where the seat was blocking. Right here, we wanna make sure we get all these little fins. The worst thing would be if you didn't lay the seats down, then you've got like a dry line, right? So we don't want that. And also, I like to return the car how the customer dropped it off. So he dropped it off with his third row down. The reason I do that is because generally they're gonna leave it how they ride with it. And so I don't want it to be a situation where he comes and picks his car up and then has to make a bunch of adjustments. So I try to leave it exactly how I found it. If the seats were up, I'll lay them down to get that filled in, and then I'll sit them back up. So I just leave it how I got it. All right. Now, while I'm back here, I wanted to show you real quick. So when I have the third row, what I'm trying to do is efficiency, not climbing in and out a million times. So even though normally I would go around the entire car and do all the protectant and then go back and do all the windows, on these third row, since I'm already climbed back here, I'm gonna do it while I'm here, just so that I'm not climbing in and out, folding the seats again. I really try to keep the folding the seats to a minimum. So I'm gonna put the True View on my towel, use my box method, and I'm just gonna do just these third row windows while I'm back here. All right, and then we'll go do the Swift over here. Get that filled in. All right, and then same thing, we're gonna hit this window while we're back here. All right, then I'm just gonna hit these again, these areas that are gonna get locked between the seats. Make sure that those get moisturized before I fold the seat up. And really everything on this car is absorbing the Swift nicely. I doubt I'm even gonna have to go back with a towel to smooth anything out. It's really doing a good job. This was definitely a good choice. Again, we're gonna hit the top of that seat. Go down, back of the headrest. All right, then I'm just gonna, now that the back is usually the hardest, that's gonna take the longest. Now I'm just gonna move through the main cabin portion of the car. Super quickly and easily. I think I love the versatility of Swift and the whole interior system. You can use Express, you can leave it alone, you can dress it, you can use Dynamic, you can use Swift as your cleaner. So you can kind of just find what the combo that you like. And this just happens to be one that I really like to do, even though I'm not using it at all for the cleaning. It's such a nice protectant on its own for these ones that you don't want to take a chance of leaving streaks behind. And then we're going to put this on the leather as well. All right, and then we'll do the door, and then I'm just going to knock out the other 4 sections. All right, so real quick, I wanted to show you guys something that I've had Tony working on while I finish up the inside. So when a customer comes in like this and the car is really clean, doesn't need a lot, I like to always do something that's above and beyond maybe the normal part of the detail that I'm kind of just throwing in as a bonus for them. So this is obviously black jamb paint, which we all know is near impossible to correct. So we've never gone down the road with this car of doing a paint correction or coating. So obviously he goes through the car wash a lot. That means the hood's gonna take a lot of damage. So I went ahead and had Tony just buzz over the hood with actually just UCP, which is Ultra Coat Polish, kind of a one-step polish. It's got a little bit of protection in it. So it's just gonna really clear up the paint and just, you know, make it look just a little bit better. So I went ahead and had him run over this. So let's see what we got here. So I think this is over here. This is the side that was not done. So you can see there's lots of hazing, obviously car wash swirling. This is when things start to touch it. It starts, you can see like overspray and things like that. So had him run over it with a Eurofiber pad and the UCP, and it just clears it up just enough to make it look nice and shiny and bright, and just, you know, take a little bit of wear and tear off that hood, and just make it look a little bit better, because it was definitely aging faster than the rest of the car. So, you know, something he might spend 10-15 minutes on, but it's going to mean a lot to the customer, and you know, just be that little extra above and beyond. All right, so now we are going to do, so we've got our protectant done. So now I'm going to finish the interior with doing the glass on the inside. So I like to use my microfiber applicator method. So I'm going to just use TrueView, load up my applicator, and then I'm going to do the box method. This is just such a great method because the applicator then grabs all of the fingerprints, dog nose, snot, everything off the glass. And then you're gonna use your glass towel just to kind of buff off the rest of that residue, but you're not gonna clog up your towel with like dirt and matter. And then I'm just gonna go back over there. You're gonna see that the TrueView wipes off super easy, just in one wipe, totally streak-free glass, super clean. And then all of the gunk is in your applicator, not in your towel. So then as you move through the car, you're not spreading what was on the glass before that. So we're just gonna knock all these out, super easy. I'll show you how I do the front glass here in just 1 second. We always want to make sure to roll these down just a little bit so that we get that top edge, and then we'll roll it back up before we do our final wipe. Super easy doing this method. So then on the front windshield, I'm going to use the same method, but what's nice about this versus like just using a towel is our applicator is going to get up in all those corners. So again, I'm going to split the windshield in half. This is going to reach down in there for me using the box method, cleaning all that gunk off the front windshield, going back over with our FTW. And this, you can see it's just totally streak free. This is like the only way to clean glass. It's amazing. I'm gonna flip it. Makes it super easy. And then while I'm in here, I'm gonna do the nav screen, all of the vanity mirrors. Still using my applicator. Knock those out. And I'll do the sunroof as well. Always an easy thing to forget. And then I always do this on the sunroof as well, which is nice because the applicator again gets in all the corners. I see so often where there's like a ring around the sunroof where somebody completely missed it. We're gonna just buff that off and have a nice clean sunroof. Now this is an area that I just feel like people forget this all the time. And again, you don't want to leave those parts where people open stuff and that's what they notice, the difference. Okay, so then I'm just going to knock the rest of these windows out, and then we'll be mostly done with the inside until we get down to the final vacuum and the final inspection. Okay, so another quick tip with my favorite product, No Rib. So a lot of times, because we used Swift, we didn't use anything that had a lot of silicones in it. So the edges of like the cup holders, this little tray up here, they tend to look a little bit dry. They're not dirty, but they look dry. So I like to take the No Rub and just kind of hit those areas. And what's gonna happen is this is gonna look wet and greasy, but if we walk away for 10 minutes, this is just gonna dry out on its own and we can just easily buff off any residue, but it's just gonna rehydrate all those areas and have them look nice and new. Same goes for the vents. You know, even though we clean these, they can look a little bit dry because they're, you know, sprayed with air, hot air all the time. So this is just gonna get in all those cracks and just rehydrate everything. So I'll go through with this and put it anywhere where like my sponge doesn't fit and just kind of makes everything look super nice. And then I come back during my final wipe and kind of clean all this up. You can also do this before you do your protectant, but I kind of do it at the end so that I see where I can't get in. So it's just kind of, this is like my final, make everything look perfect. So I'll put this on, you know, if these petals are really dry over here, I can put it on the petals and then wipe it off. It does not leave them slippery at all, especially on the seatbelt buckles. You know, they dry out and get real nasty looking. So this just rehydrates everything. I love it. All right, so we have left our wheels and tires this entire appointment, which I like to do. I like to let it absorb and do its thing on its own. So now all I'm gonna do is on the tire, it's mostly matted down itself. I'm just gonna take my green tire brush and just smooth out in case there's any areas where it didn't soak in or what have you. I just go back over real quick to smooth that out. But now if you remember, we put dynamic straight on the wheel as well. So now I'm going to show you how easy this wipes off and leaves no greasy feeling or anything like that. It's just going to wipe off these wheels so easy, but it's going to leave them nice and black. It's going to look like you polished them, honestly, which this is just like my favorite thing. I do this to all black wheels like this that are matte. Really good for RV and boat wheels. They're about the worst you'll ever find. And so this method works really great on those too. But what I love about this is normally you would never spray a wheel with tire dressing, but this just happens to be one tire dressing that this works so great on. And then they just literally stay like that. Looks like a brand new wheel. So awesome. I love it. So I'm just gonna go back over the backs of these seats with the paint gloss to pick up any sand that came out. Just kind of doing our final inspection vacuum here. I'm not gonna worry about making this totally perfect just because this fabric back here, this carpet is sensitive. And so I don't wanna use anything like a pet stone or anything on this to try to get all the sand out because I don't wanna cause unnecessary wear and tear on the carpeting. So, you know, I'm not going to worry about every little fuzz ball, but I'm going to get out everything that I can. And then as we know, the WeatherTech mat goes on top of this. But the way that they do this, it's just basically cardboard with some really cheap carpet on top. So it's never gonna look absolutely gorgeous and perfect. But we're gonna get it as good as we can. All right, and then we'll get the carpet in the car. All right, so that's it for our vacuums. We're gonna put this away. Last thing we need to do is just do our final inspection on the inside. So just kind of wipe up any of that no rub that we left over, check our mirrors, check our glass, and just do the, make sure everything is nice and tight. So we'll go grab, and I'm actually gonna use Defender for that. So let's go grab that. All right, so I'm gonna use Defender on this just because I'm gonna use just the lightest spray on my towel, and I'm just gonna use this towel to go through and touch up any of like the touch spots where you're gonna see fingerprints. So literally just gonna give my towel one spray. I'm gonna check the bottoms of my glass, make sure that there's no streaks or smears. So I'm gonna check this rear passenger screen to make sure I didn't leave any Swift that would streak or smear on that. And then I'm gonna check anything that has metal that could have fingerprints or things like that. So then this area is done. I'm gonna move up to the driver portion. Same thing. I'm gonna do that chrome door handle. I'm gonna do these, this is just like a plastic piece, but this part is going to reject the Swift, so I don't want to leave any streaking there. And then I'm just touching all these spots that I don't want to have any streaks. So just kind of doing what I call like a little insurance wipe to make sure everything looks perfect. We're going to go back over the nav screen, this whole center console area. Any of where there's, the LED screens, I want to make sure those are all nice and clean. Don't want any streaks. This little button here, these little wood grain areas. And then if for some reason any of the protectant has kind of like not settled in and caused some streaks, I'm gonna go over that and grab that. So like up here where we use the no rub to get in those corners, I don't want it to remain behind, so I'm just gonna wipe those up, but those corners are gonna hold onto the no rub and look nice and refreshed. So I'm gonna check all my mirrors, check this area up here. So just kind of doing that. So I'm gonna finish up this passenger side, making sure to get this wood grain on the door. And then the last step will just be to put the mats back in, and then the interior is gonna be done. And we'll move on to the final wipe on the outside, and we are finished with this. And then we are gonna grab, one last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab his little goodies back that he had left in his door. We're gonna put those right back where we found them, and that is it for the interior. So now on the outside, I'm gonna grab Defender and an FTW, and all we're gonna do is just do our final wipe down. I'm gonna put Defender on the glass and the paint, and then we're gonna be totally good to go. All right, so this is the final step on this car. I'm gonna do two things here. I'm going to do my final protection layer, which is gonna cover everything, the windshield, all the side glass, all the paint, and then it's also gonna be my final inspection wipe. So this is also where I'm checking for anything crazy. So killing two birds with one stone here. So Defender over the wash clay seal. This I love to do. I've been doing this for about 1.5 to 2 years. What I find is if you're doing the Defender within a certain amount of time after you've done the wash clay seal, the Defender soaks right into the bead maker, locks together, and leaves behind an incredible protection layer and a crazy amount of gloss. So this, I love to put Defender on top. So I'm just gonna go ahead and spray each panel and, like I said, go over the glass and everything. Defender is amazing on glass. I love that. Now again, this, for some will consider this an upgrade, but I build it in. So this is the only service I provide. So this, for some, it may be an upgrade. And I'm gonna make sure to get my towel in that ledge to get any dust out of there. Again, because I am doing my final inspection and my final protection at the same time. So I wanna make sure that I'm getting in all, all of the edges of the glass. I'm doing everything in one application. And then I'm just gonna check before I move on that I don't need to go back with my towel and catch any streaks from the Defender. And then we'll make sure we get in here where we cleaned those out real good at first. Make sure we get around that to try to protect from that buildup. Coming back, So if you look at it, we got all of that hard water staining and buildup from the car wash out of all these letters, and it just gives us a much nicer finish. It's not going to be an eyesore that your eye is going to catch and see the defect. So it helps the side of the car look much better, and it took 2 seconds to do. So just a nice thing to do for the customers. Make sure the emblems are clean. All right, and then Tony just finished up on the hood. And so again, right over the UCP, we're just gonna put the Defender right over the top. It's gonna work great with the protection that's already in UCP. Very cool. And then obviously in the grill, we wanna really focus on this part to make sure that next year when he comes back, those bugs come off nice and easy again. I think that was probably my favorite part so far. So I always tell people, some people will think that the Defender is an upgrade and they want to charge a bunch of extra money. But I think what's important to me here is I know that this customer is going to come back. And so where we saw the benefits of the bugs coming off really easy, it's kind of like I'm putting the Defender on for me, because next year I'm still going to charge him the same price for a full detail, but it's going to make my job easier next time, which I think that really stands out. That, it may be an upgrade, but it actually is going to save me time, which time is money next time. So I love that it made my job way easier. Nobody likes to scrub bugs for hours. So we are gonna finish up the rest of the car, and then we're gonna take it outside and see how we did. All right, so now I'm gonna pull it out in the sun. I'm gonna do like a final inspection, make sure that I got everything all wiped up, check everything out, make sure it looks good, and then I'm gonna call the customer, have him come pick it up. So there you have it, a day of my life as a garage detailer. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the after shots, and I'll see you guys next time.